So I've been very interested by this Knicks and Pacers series, and I wanted to really talk about this. The Knicks and Pacers have one of the most interesting series right now, as they're both teams which seem pretty evenly challenged. And I've said this to death, but I do really think that they're opposites of each other. You know, one is an overachieving team, the Knicks, which have been good all year, but they've been really plagued with a coach which abuses of their stars too much, and they really want to win. They play with hustle, they play defense, and they don't win easy games. For the Pacers, they're a team which have completely changed the way which we play offense in terms of this season. They showed people that you could win a lot of games just focusing on scoring, passing, and playing quickly. And I believe that that was one of the biggest revelations of the season. And it's honestly caused one of the greatest changes in the league, as when they started scoring like 140, 150 points a game, it became like a thing in the NBA. Apart from the rules obviously being a bit skewed, it was pretty crazy to see the difference between teams. You know, the Knicks, it seemed like every game they win is tough. It's a tough, grimy game which they have to pull kind of out the mud to get. And for the Pacers, when they win, it's like a flow motion. It's like they're happy, they're smiling. Tyrese Halliburton will be doing like dancing around the court. So it seems to me that these teams have found a matchup which is definitely tough for both of them. As we know, the Knicks went up 2-0, then the Pacers took back for it to be 2-2, and it seems like they win in their homes, they're more comfortable there. But now the Knicks went up 3-2. And a big reason as to why was because of Jalen Brunson's consistent and just amazing play throughout the series. Jalen Brunson has really been the guy for the Knicks for the entire season, and there's no denying that he's one of those players where, even if we're not going to consider him maybe an all-time great, yeah, I don't think he's going to be remembered as like an all-time top 10 player, top 12 player. I do believe that we're going to consider him one of those guys where people remember with like, wow, that guy during his prime, he was good, right? Because what he does in the playoffs, what he's done in the regular season, what he's done for the Knicks in general, has been something that we haven't really seen with many stars, right? Like the stars who are cut like him, or maybe Jokic, Anthony Edwards, Jimmy Butler, and well, I think that might be the list. Luca. So those guys which just get better in the playoffs are consistently amazing, don't have a lot of problems with injury, and kind of always get their team to where they want to be and overachieve with their teams. You know, get to the finals, get to the Western or Eastern Conference Finals, and make bad teams be much better than promoted just because of how they play, and their consistency is something that a lot of stars do not have. And yes, LeBron is like that, but I don't want to put him there right now. And Steph is like that too, but I don't want to put them there right now because obviously they're out of the playoffs, and I want to talk about these current playoffs right now. But those guys, and KD is like that too, by the way. So those guys are the greats. So no disrespect to them if I didn't mention them, but Jalen Brunson surprisingly is one of those guys, as we saw flashes of it last year that he was kind of fearless in any situation when he was in the Mavericks, and he had to back up when Luka got hurt against the Jazz. And Jesus, did he perform? He took that team and basically made it his own while Luka was out, and absolutely just cooked the Jazz, dropping great games, 40, and just being an absolute menace. And in my opinion, now he's doing it to a better degree. I think he's averaging the most points in these playoffs. And with Jalen Brunson consistently being one of the better players which we've seen in terms of scoring and in terms of putting it all together, The fact that he's able to play all these minutes under Tom Thibodeau, which is the Knicks coach, which is a very demanding coach to say the least. He normally gets his guys hurt because of how much he plays them, but he does run great plays, great offenses, and great defenses especially. So now that we can see that the Knicks are like this, the Pacers have a challenge in their hands. The Pacers are one game away from losing, and they're 2 games away from winning the series. So they're definitely in a tight spot where they need to win. So with the Pacers, what is their biggest, takeaway? And in my opinion, is just how does Tyrese wake up that day? Sometimes, they'll have the best Tyrese, the one who drops 35, the one who's been great, the one who we know how he is. Other days we won't have that. And I feel like Tyrese being good or bad makes the whole team kind of have their roles changed. And the reason why I say that is because, like, when Tyrese plays badly, there's normally a tendency between Pascal Siakam playing much better because he just has to shoulder a bigger load, take more shots, and play a lot of minutes, right? So the whole team has to kind of carry harder when Tyrese doesn't play well. Like Miles Turner has been on a hitter recently, but I feel like when Tyrese plays well, his team just works around whatever he is doing, right? And that, to me, is the biggest difference between the Knicks and the Pacers. It's where are the stars coming from? Because when it comes to this short dude from New York called Jalen Brunson, Jesus, that he's gonna do everything. Every game, like the worst game he's had was the last one, and he had 18 points, and yes, he didn't have a good game, but he's been averaging 34 for the playoffs on 41 minutes a game, on 7.5 assists, and in this game he was just absolutely phenomenal. The way that the New York Knicks have been playing, I feel like is kind of like like the Pacers of the 90s. They have one star which is going to show up consistently. They have a team of guys which are good enough to get to the finals with because they all play their role and they all play their butt off every single playoffs. And that's when they had Reggie Miller, by the way. And I feel like during, the series and what's left of it, I feel like there are three very big questions that we're going to have to see. First, can the Knicks keep doing it without the pieces that they're missing? They've been playing great, but they are missing a substantial amount of pieces, which they probably should not be playing this well without. And honestly, with the minutes that their starters are getting, unless they start, phasing it out a little bit right now, they're going to have the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals, which is going to be a very important piece. And for the Pacers, it's can you even take a game from the Celtics? Because the Knicks, we know that at least their defense could win them a game against probably any team. And the way that they play tough, they play grimy. But when it comes to these other teams, and when it comes to the Pacers especially, it's like, can they actually beat these teams which are going to be game planning for their style of play? Derek White is a great defensive player, and even if, let's say, the Pacers would get to the finals, those Western Conference teams are ready to guard the types of teams which the East has, or at least that's what I think. So in my opinion, when we see the consistency of the teams which we have in this series, the real question is, could they get to the finals? And I think the answer is no. And with that being said, I think that for that reason, they should probably focus on other things when it comes to what are you going to do for next season. Like, look, I'm not saying that the winner of this series has to focus on what are you going to do for next season. But I'm saying that whoever loses this series has to make improvements. because the next two series are going to be the toughest ones in the playoffs. And if you are struggling so much in the second round, then how is the Eastern Conference Finals going to look for you?